What do you guys think is the most expensive Lego piece in the world? There's a couple ways you could try and answer that question, some arguments you can make for different pieces, but I'm going to claim that this is the most expensive piece. This is the 1x8 Marina Bay Sands printed black tile. Some of you may recognize this style as a type of tile that was only available in architecture sets, and this particular set is of a casino resort in Singapore. This Lego set was only available on a limited run, sold in the gift shop of that resort. I've heard also on Lego.com Korea and maybe some other gift shops in Southeast Asia. Currently, it's hard to even estimate a value for this piece. The last one that was sold on Bricklink traded for about $87 around a year ago. And currently, none are even available as listings. Recently, as I was ordering some pieces on Bricklink, I decided to pull the trigger and order the rest of the pieces for the Marina Bay Sands set. Today, let's have a little fun and let's put it together. Okay, so I have my parts very loosely color sorted, unpacked, and ready to go. There are probably some extraneous parts here because this was part of several Bricklink orders where I ordered a lot of pieces. I do think that this might actually be translucent medium blue rather than translucent light blue for some of my 1x2 plates, but that's not really something I'm worried about. If it's a problem and looks off, I can just replace it later. I don't own the box or instructions, but luckily I don't really care about the box, and Lego has the instructions available as a PDF on their website. So we can begin building. I acquired the Marina Bay Sands tile a couple years ago, I want to say in around spring of 2015. At that time I actually had set up a spreadsheet that would try and basically scrape Bricklink's website to let me know if any were available for that, as well as a couple of the other exclusive architecture tiles. And luckily, after only a couple weeks of trying to find the piece, I managed to find one seller in the USA for about $35, which was a little higher than the piece had recently been trading, but I kind of believed in my head and my heart that this piece was going to become a lot rarer in the coming years, and it seems that I'm correct. To even estimate the price of the piece now, there is, as of time of filming this video, there is a seller on Bricklink with relatively low user feedback offering it with the printed tile for a bit over $200. If you consider how much the rest of the pieces for this cost to try and put the set together, then that puts the tile itself maybe around $150 to $160 if you were to purchase that and part it out. The only other listings for the set on Bricklink are either without the tile or complete in box, and the complete in box ones tend to go for over $1,000. Unsurprisingly, most of them are from sellers from Singapore or somewhere else in Southeast Asia. Now, depending on how you want to argue it, the Marina Bay Sands tile is not the most expensive Lego piece out there. Firstly, there are a handful of minifigures that are extremely expensive, a lot more expensive than any construction piece. A lot of them are various exclusives from Comic-Cons or toy fairs. Most of these are either Star Wars or Marvel minifigures. The Mr. Gold minifigure that was available in the minifigure lines a couple years ago as an extremely rare pull is also very, very valuable. As far as minifigures that have appeared in sets, I think the most expensive one is the Boba Fett minifigure from the 2003 Cloud City set. It was one of the first minifigures that had printed arms and legs, and right now it's worth about $500. Two of the other minifigures from that set also have some exclusive printing, and they're worth about $100 each. It sort of goes without saying then that if you own the torso or the legs for a minifigure like that, it would be considered more expensive and more valuable than the Marina Bay Sands tile. Now, if you consider sets, pieces that have actually appeared in sets, and kind of exclude minifigures to talk about construction pieces only, then you start getting into the realm of other printed tiles or pieces. The Sungyamun architecture set, that piece is currently also worth about $100, and last I checked there were two sellers willing to sell it at around that price. I actually also happen to own that piece, and I'll put together the rest of the set another time. And then the radar dish from the first LEGO Star Wars Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon, the one that was released in 2007, that dish is also available for about $100, and it's got some exclusive printing on it. Now, despite these listings being more than the $87 Marina Bay Sands tile last traded for, I do consider Marina Bay Sands to effectively be a more rare and expensive piece. I'm sure if it were to trade again, it would be a lot higher than $87. And if someone were to list it that low, I'm sure it would get bought very quickly, unless it was from an unknown seller with low reputation. If you want to talk about unprinted plates, or pieces rather, which is a fair question to ask because a lot of these printed pieces only end up existing in one, maybe two sets ever, then it starts to become a little less clear, especially since these prices tend to fluctuate and those pieces tend to trade a little more frequently. But there is kind of a common theme in that many of them were available only in maybe one LEGO Ultimate Collector Series Star Wars set. For example, before the new LEGO Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon came out, which at this point was already a couple years ago, the mast rigging that was available in light bluish gray, 28 by 3.5, I think was the dimensions, which is a very, by the way, common piece in pirate sets in reddish brown. This was only available in the Ultimate Collector Series Falcon, and it started to trade as high as, I think, $200 each, and I believe you needed two if you wanted to put together the Falcon. Since the new one also has the piece available, it's now dropped in price dramatically. But the value of this piece got to a point where people would try and find any way to acquire it. There was at some point on LEGO's website a special bundle of pieces that from the photo appeared to have extras of this mast rigging in it, and people did the math to realize that buying the bundle was worth it just to get that piece alone. Besides that example, the current most expensive non-printed LEGO pieces are either all very, very old or from other highly collectible sets like old Ultimate Collector Series. Some of them old enough to where the pieces could have been in light gray rather than light bluish gray, for example. And so, while the title of this video could be argued as clickbait, because you can make a lot of arguments for what's really the most expensive LEGO piece in the world, I hope that you found this little history interesting. And with that, I kind of have nothing else left to share. So I hope you enjoy staying with me while I build the rest of this set. While I'm here, maybe I'll share some of my thoughts in the architecture line in general. I used to collect a lot of these sets, which is why I got so interested in these rare pieces in the first place. And I have almost, at least like 2/3 of the old sets. Some of the newer ones I don't have, like the Great Wall of China, that's a pretty nice one. The Statue of Liberty I don't have. I don't know if I'm super interested in it. And I don't really take interest in the Skyline sets. So ones I'm missing off the top of my head are Sears Tower and Willis Tower. I will make the distinction because there is a difference only in the printed piece. And as someone who grew up in Chicagoland, I think the Sears Tower would be a little cooler to collect rather than the newly named Willis Tower. The difference, of course, is that the Sears Tower piece is worth somewhere around $20 to $25. The Willis Tower piece is probably near worthless. I don't know if the set is still in production, but I do remember visiting the Willis Tower a couple years ago and seeing literally hundreds of the sets stacked up. So it's definitely had a mass release. Other than that, I've either purchased or received many of the other architecture sets as gifts. Some of them I built the same way I'm building this set here, by actually getting all the pieces on Bricklink. For example, the Roby house, I painstakingly acquired all the pieces for that, and while it's a very beautiful build, it was actually very far from fun to put together. A lot of tedium involved in building that set. A lot of aligning one-by-one tiles or stacking one-by-one plates. Although it was also a little tedious, you have to place something around 700 reddish-brown 1x2 bricks, 1x2 plates in order to create the brick wall on the outside. Although at least that's not so annoying on the fingers and somewhat satisfying to put together. Aligning 1x1 plates in stacks of 5 or 6 is much more painstaking and annoying. Most of the medium-sized sets reach a happy medium of being both nice looking and fun to build. I remember the United States headquarters was one such set. Some of the others, like the Brandenburg Gate, Arc de Triomphe, stuff like that. Those are all pretty nice sets. This type of video format is something I haven't really done before, even though I do occasionally have a bit of a rambly miscellaneous building video. It's not really something that I do much or intend to continue in the future. Although if you guys do find this interesting, maybe I will get the rest of the pieces for Sungyemun and build that one as well. Other than that, I don't particularly want to produce content of just taking existing sets and building them, unless I can share a really interesting story about the set in some kind of meaningful way. I don't know what new things I could share about the Sungyemun set that wouldn't just be me trying to tell you about the architecture itself, and that would really just be things I glean from the Wikipedia page or the instruction booklet, which do tend to have some nice tidbits, both some history, something about the architect, something about the designer. The LEGO Architectures line is something I've been very impressed with overall, as a nice collection of essentially adult-facing sets that are nice to display on a shelf. Maybe someday I'll give a very brief tour of my whole architecture collection, but I would like to finish it up. I need to get my hands on the Farnsworth House. As I mentioned, Great Wall of China, Sears Tower, Empire State Building, preferably a small one. I don't care so much for the massive one. And other than that, I'm not sure what else I'm even missing from the line. I may have already mentioned I don't care so much for the Skyline sets, so I don't really intend to collect those. I guess it goes without saying that Marina Bay Sands is also one of the most expensive LEGO sets out there. As I mentioned before, sealed in box is worth like $1,000, and of course it's because the set was so rare. I actually don't know that well how it stacks up against other sets, but if we're talking sealed in box, then you know, there's some tough competition out there. A lot of Star Wars sets are very, very collectible. Even some of the old creator lines, like I think the Taj Mahal set is actually worth a lot if you happen to have it in box. Though I guess it is impressive that many of those ultra collectible sets were already massive, expensive sets that not that many people could have, and in Marina Bay Sands surely retailed for under $100 US. While I was doing some research for this, I did find a listing, of course out of stock, on Walmart's website for Marina Bay Sands for about $1,000. I'm kind of curious how that got there. Maybe if a Walmart ever sold this set, I would be pretty surprised. But it is listed on their website, so that's a fun little factoid for you. As you can see, this is a slightly different hue for these blues, but again, I'm not going to sweat it today. I'll replace it at a later date. I do have a few of my personal friends who watch my videos, and those who know me know that I actually have a certain flair for adventure. If this set were just being released a couple years ago, or even if I just wanted to offer a really cinematic experience for an otherwise relatively mundane video of me assembling a 600-piece Lego set, then I would have probably tried to book a flight to Singapore, go to the gift shop for Marina Bay Sands, and actually purchase the set in person, or at least something really fun and over the top like that. But when the set was first released, I was pretty young, definitely couldn't afford my own flight somewhere, and probably wouldn't have wanted to travel alone either. I think it would have been tough to convince my parents to either join me or let me go on this journey anyway. And so here we are assembling the set a couple years after it's been discontinued. A set that probably most people don't even realize exists. Really only if you spend time on websites such as Bricklink, such as Brickset, various Lego news aggregator sites, or sites that kind of have databases of every set ever created, which you really know that this set existed. I certainly wasn't aware of it until I started perusing, because I had only ever seen architecture sets advertised that were available in the US. As a little bit of a compulsive collector at times, though, this one always really stood out to me. And again, even though I've been sitting on the tile for a couple years, I always knew that someday I would build the set because all the other pieces were very commonly available. I think these olive green 1x1 round tiles might have been some of the rarest pieces in the set at the time, besides, of course, the tile. And that's because these round tiles were just not that common at all to begin with. And maybe, I don't know if there was another set. Probably there was, I think, one other set that had them in olive green at the time. But now, this whole lot of pieces cost me, I think, around $60. A little more with shipping, but it's tough to say for sure because I ordered a bunch of other pieces with. I also have a personal policy of trying only to order new quality when it comes to white pieces, because sometimes, for some sellers, used means it's been used at all. And sometimes used means used, and that means it'll have a bit of yellowing and discoloration on it, and I prefer not to have that in my pieces. When I do build sets, I generally do build them like this. I don't really sort my pieces super well, loosely by color, but not much beyond that. I know some people really hate that sort of thing, and probably it does increase the net amount of time I spend building a set, but I sort of enjoy the act of searching for pieces. I've just always built like this since I was a child, and so usually, most of my building was dumping out my big bin of Legos and having to find for the pieces I want, or search for the pieces I want. I was wondering to myself earlier, what was the purpose of these 1x1 plates here, but it's clear that it's actually to hold the main structure in place. This hinge can't really swivel forward or backwards in any significant capacity, which is a pretty neat technique for enforcing a certain shape. Wow, there it is. Really nice set. Actually a really fun build. Very beautifully designed, very satisfying to put together. And of course, couldn't be complete until we put in the tile itself. There you have it, Marina Bay Sands. I hope you guys enjoyed this experience. If you did, I encourage you to please like the video, maybe leave me some of your comments as thoughts, share it with your friends, subscribe, and I will see you